Welcome back, everyone. Following the unfortunate injury to Jared Vanderbilt, the Lakers will have to look for a replacement, which could either be temporary or maybe even for the remainder of this season. It really all comes down to their final evaluation, which I don't think we have heard about quite yet. And with that in mind, the Lakers could be looking to add a new wing player, with a big emphasis being put on a defensive-minded wing player. A true 3-and-D wing would be ideal, but I think the priority here should and will be on a versatile defender. Again, we have no idea how long Vanderbilt will be out for. According to Woj, he is quote-unquote expected to miss several weeks with a right foot injury, but more evaluation needs to be done to see if it's an injury that could keep him out for even longer. Definitely not a good sign, but we simply don't know if it's season ending or not, and that really is important here too. I mean, if it's not season ending, then they likely do not want to give up trade assets to find a replacement. I imagine they would much rather sign a player off the current free agent market. After all, they do have Cam Reddish, who unfortunately is currently injured too, but he will be back within a couple of weeks. And then they do have Max Christie here as well, who despite being pretty inconsistent offensively, he does offer pretty good value on defense. And between the two of them, they could theoretically get by for about a month without Jared Vanderbilt, and especially when you factor in the time off that will come with the All-Star break. However, if further evaluation shows that he'll be out even longer, perhaps through the rest of this season, then that might lead to them making a trade. Though all we know right now is that he should be back. And with that in mind, we are going to talk about some temporary replacements that might even lead to a long-term signing. Before we get too far into it though, I would like to invite you to check out our NBA Discord. If you enjoy having NBA or Laker-related discussion, being updated on NBA news, or chatting with other NBA fans during live games, then I guarantee you would enjoy it. Or if you don't have Discord, then feel free to follow me on Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it to hear my thoughts on everything NBA related. There will be a link for both of them in the video description down below. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. And if you are not aware, the Lakers still have one spot remaining on their 15-man roster, which they could either fill through a trade or through free agency. I know they're likely waiting to see if they can get anything through the buyout market, but they could do that while also temporarily filling this spot, and that could be done by using a 10-day contract. After all, they have not used one yet, but they have been able to since January 5th. And while there might not be any obvious difference makers in the current market, there might be a couple of diamonds in the rough, and we'll begin by talking about KZ Okpala. You might not have heard of him before, but he definitely can be a good defender. He's spent time with Miami and Sacramento throughout his 4-year career, but he's now found himself without a home, though it's not due to him being a bad player. He might be a bit up and down, but he only got let go by Sacramento due to having a knee surgery, and then he was not fully recovered by the time free agency came around, which obviously left him without a team, but he does appear to now be fully healthy again. And if you are looking to replace Vanderbilt's length and defensive versatility, then Okpala would be a good option for it. He is 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, and that allows him to switch 1 through 4 on defense. Definitely not the defender that Vanderbilt is, but he could offer some value here. He's shown the ability to take on tough defensive matchups, and then with his versatility, you can virtually match him up with pretty much any ball handler on the court. Although, much like Vanderbilt, you cannot rely on him to be a good 3-point shooter. I mean, he's shown improvement by knocking down 34% of his shot attempts during the past 2 years now, but he's still not a particularly reliable 3-point shooter. But again, this likely would be a temporary replacement kind of thing. And with that in mind, I think KZ Okpala would be a viable option, and one that could potentially offer upside here too. But if they are looking for a more veteran option, then maybe a guy like Justice Winslow could be on their radar instead. And while I refer to him as a veteran, it's not like I'm calling him old here. I mean, the guy is still only 27, though I would agree that it feels like he is much older. After having a really good start to his NBA career, he's virtually fallen out of the NBA entirely, and it's primarily been due to a combination of injury along with 3-point shooting, or should I say a lack of 3-point shooting, and you really cannot mention one without the other. After all, a shoulder injury likely led to his decline in 3-point shooting. I mean, the guy shot 38% from 3 for 2 years in a row, but then he tore a labrum and it all kind of fell apart after that. I mean, he still can knock down the occasional 3-point shot, but he's definitely not what he once was, and that's very likely why he remains a free agent despite being really good at a lot of other things. For one, he is a really good defender, and much like Okpala and Vanderbilt, Winslow can defend 1 through 4, even while being an inch or two shorter than them too, and I would argue that he's better at defending bigger players than them as well. Another thing he can offer is solid playmaking ability, once even being regarded as a legitimate point forward, and I think that helps make him a viable option on offense even without being a good 3-point shooter. He might not be a huge shooting threat, but he can put the ball on the floor and make the defense collapse. And not only that, but he can find the open man after doing it, something that very few of their current wing players can do effectively. In fact, really only LeBron can do it. And while I would definitely not put him on the level of Vanderbilt, Winslow can offer some rebounding ability here as well. He's averaged over 5 rebounds per game throughout his career as a forward, including over 1 offensive rebound per game as well. Again, definitely not on the level of Jared Vanderbilt, but I think that Winslow would be a sneaky good option for a 10-day contract, and I really do think he should be on the radar. But how about a guy they're more familiar with? And if you look at the thumbnail or title of this video, then you likely know who I'm about to refer to, with that being former Lakers Stanley Johnson. I for one am really sad that team has not signed him yet. I mean, he played pretty well for San Antonio last season, even improving his 3-point shooting to go along with his always reliable defense. Now, I know we're only talking about 40 shot attempts here, but he did knock them down at a 45% clip. And if you take a look at his past 3 years of 3-point shooting, he shot a fairly respectable 34% from 3. Not great, but not bad either. And in reality, that's better than either one of Vanderbilt or Reddish. And then he's really not too far away from Reddish on defense. Definitely not on the level of Vando, but I'd say that he's right below Cam Reddish. I probably would give the edge to Reddish when it comes to matching up with guards, but I think Stanley can handle bigger wing players a bit better. I mean, he's over 20 pounds heavier than Reddish is after all, and that does a lot when it comes to handling a guy like Luka Doncic, for example. Much like Winslow, I feel like Stanley should be older at this point, but in reality he is only 27 years old here as well, and that would leave very little worry about him declining anytime soon. Again, I think that he should be on a team right now. Maybe not to be a guy filling a 20-minute per game kind of role, but he definitely could offer 10 to 15 minutes per game off the bench. He's a great defender, a solid rebounder, and then is even showing 3-point shooting improvement too. I talked about what he's done in the NBA, but even now he is shooting nearly 44% from 3 down in the G League, attempting over 6 of them per game per 36 minutes, showing his ability to be a relatively high volume 3-point shooter while doing it. And in my opinion, he would be a great option for a 10-day contract while they're without Vanderbilt and Reddish. I'd like Winslow and even Okpala as an option here too, but you would be hard-pressed to find a better and more familiar option than Stanley Johnson at this point. He pretty much offers everything they need right now, and I guarantee he would be willing to take a 10-day contract. With all of that being said though, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the currently available options for a wing defender? Do you like any of the 3 that I mentioned, or do you think that they must make a trade instead? Comment your thoughts down below. That will do it for this video though. Big thank you to those of you who took the time to watch until the end of this video, and until the end of all of my videos in general. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.